The Diaries of Fitting In.
Human nature repeatedly defaults to impressing others in search of a community, but this comes at the complete destruction of personal identity.
This video will explore how social conformity often comes at the cost of personal authenticity, ultimately creating greater harm.
These are the basics. Reese.
Kyle.
And Kaylin, here's The Diaries.
A poem that provides extreme insight into identity, being the enormity of conformity, by Lost Hours Sacred Memories.
I refuse to follow a trail where everyone else has crushed their individuality firmly into the ground, silenced their hopes and dreams so they no longer make a sound.
The opening line immediately establishes the speaker's resistance to tailoring oneself to others' views, where the metaphor of a trail signifies the socially accepted path that most people choose to follow without question. By declaring a refusal of this, the speaker adopts an independent tone. This emphasizes the importance of personal autonomy, which can be seen today.
As people come to realize the problems with today's market, self-sustaining and eco-friendly products have arisen, which have been repeatedly seen as weird or odd, when in reality, it steps outside this trail of fitting in. These things are a direct reflection of going against the status quo, exactly how the enormity of conformity details identity.
As well, the poem remains consistent with its distaste in conforming. The violent verb crushed conveys the bad things that occur when one loses himself. As you have seen, the video reflects the everyday things people take for granted and flips them to be uncomfortable and painful in a satirical way, just as the pain of lost identity.
Another literary work that can be used to express how social conformity often comes at the cost of personal authenticity, ultimately creating greater harm, is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. When referring to this text, we know the common themes of conformity: same outfits, same lifestyles, and the handmaids' lives barely vary. They are reduced to an object of fertility rather than a person. There is no self-expression in Gilead society unless it's hidden.
For example, in chapter 14, my name isn't Offred, I have another name, which nobody uses now because it's forbidden. I tell myself it doesn't matter. Your name is like your telephone number, useful only to others. But what I am telling myself is wrong. It does matter. This quote gives great insight into the idea that by stripping their personal identities is what's causing greater harm, as opposed to good. The harm being forgetfulness that a name matters.
Your name is a very important symbol of who you are. In a way, it defines your identity. It is the title of your story, and Gilead is stripping the handmaids of this. Another example is found in chapter 2. Everything except the wings around my face is red, the color of blood which defines us. The skirt ankle length, full, gathered to a flat yoke that extends over the breast. The sleeves are full. The white wings too are prescribed issued. They are to keep us from seeing, but also from being seen.
This quote illustrates how society paints them in red to define them, whilst also having them blend into society. There is no personal authenticity there. They all must look the same. They remove the idea of self-expression through clothing. Think about when you wake up in the morning. Typically, you're not trying to dress the same as someone else. People develop their own styles through clothing, and this is Gilead stripping them of that. Offred expresses later on how she never looked good in red, and that's just it. Not everyone looks good in the same thing as well. Self-identity is crucial to mood and behavior. When you strip a person of self-identity, it denotes them to being practically worthless and feelings of isolation from being their true self.
As well as this upcoming poem showcases the idea that true freedom comes from rejecting societal expectation and embracing one's authentic identity. This is an excerpt from Set Yourself Free by Jadine Lydia.
Set yourself free from the chains that keep you barred and locked up in captivity. Your soul longs to fly free. Set yourself free from the expectation of being anything other than the person you were meant to be. Be yourself, believe in yourself, and most importantly, be free.
The visual structure of the poem reinforces its message of confinement. Words such as barred and captivity are stylized to slow the reader down and fully immerse them in the feeling of being restrained. This mirrors the obstacles that keep people trapped, particularly the desire of fitting in. As said, from the expectations, at the surface level can be interpreted as outward views of one, but honing in, it's the expectations one sets for themselves. This internal desire should not be categorized as shame or guilt, as many people change themselves for others.
but it portrays how humanity is in dire need of individuality. Once these expectations or needs for conformity are gone, people can truly be set free and no longer endure the pain of being someone they are not. Additionally, the ending lines create a crescendo of becoming individuals. It presents the idea that becoming yourself doesn't need to be an overnight occurrence, but one with baby steps.
To aid in comfortability.
The poem fully embodies how social conformity is directly correlated to inner pain one feels.
The Scarlet Letter also connects to the main idea that social conformity often comes at the cost of personal authenticity through Hester Prynne's character development. Throughout the story, she gradually gains independence and inner freedom by refusing to let Puritan society completely define her identity. At the beginning of the book, the Puritans try to control Hester's identity. They expect her to feel shame forever after her affair, obey strict moral rules, hide her individuality, and accept the label of a sinner. She even is forced to wear a scarlet letter A, a symbol that is meant to publicly shame her and control her. However, instead of letting society destroy her identity, Hester becomes stronger and finds a true sense of self.
One of the biggest examples of rejecting societal expectations in the story is when Hester refuses to expose Arthur Dimmesdale as Pearl's father. In Chapter 3, The Recognition, Hester is publicly questioned on the scaffold and pressured to reveal Pearl's father. In the book, Hester exclaims, "I will not speak." This quote connects because Hester rejects society's demand for total obedience. Her silence is an act of freedom and self-control. Instead of allowing the Puritans to completely dictate her life, she protects her own truth and identity. This moment shows Hester's resistance against authority, personal strength, and choosing loyalty and identity over social pressure.
Another example would be in Chapter 13, Another View on Hester, where the townspeople begin seeing Hester differently because of her strength and kindness. Hester literally transforms the meaning of the Scarlet Letter. At first, the A stands for adulterer, but over time, people began seeing it differently. The book states, "They said that it is meant able." This quote shows that the meaning of the letter A changed from something negative to something respected. Hester redefines the symbol society forced upon her. This connects to the main idea because society tries to label her identity, but Hester creates her own meaning instead. Her freedom comes through self-definition and her ability to resist societal pressures.
In the end, Hawthorne suggests that society often attempts to control individuals through shame and rigid expectations. However, Hester proves that inner freedom comes from accepting your true identity instead of allowing society to define it completely. Through Hester's transformation, the novel argues that authenticity and self-acceptance are more powerful than social conformity.
The idea that social conformity often comes at the cost of personal authenticity, ultimately creating greater harm, also reveals itself in the Disney movie Inside Out 2. If anyone has seen Inside Out, we know that Riley is a young girl and we get an inside look into her emotions inside of her: joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. When she grows up in Inside Out 2, she forms new emotions: anxiety, envy, embarrassment, ennui, and nostalgia. She is faced with the opportunity to play with an elite hockey team. Her friends are also invited, and this is one of her last chances to spend with her friend that is moving to another school. Anxiety decides that Riley should try to fit in with the older, more skilled girls. She abandons her old friends, fakes her music taste, lies about where she's from, breaks rules, and so much more just to try and fit in with the cool girls. When Riley tries to suppress who she really is, anxiety triggers a panic attack, ultimately showing how, through Riley's sacrifice of her self-identity, she causes mental harm. Through Riley's conformity, she overall harms her well-being whilst also losing herself. The loss she faces serves as the harm in this situation, and it shows how loss of self-identity overall can cause harm to mental well-being, and also cause intense anxiety and stress due to trying to conform. By conforming, you lose yourself, which affects the well-being, but it is also much harder to be someone you're not than to be yourself.
Lastly, the poem Caged Bird by Maya Angelou showcases the idea that people find true freedom by refusing to conform to society's standards and expressing their genuine identity. This poem shows the difference between being trapped in social norms and fully being yourself. For example, the bird symbolizes people trapped by society, while the free bird represents authentic freedom and self-expression. The poem goes as follows.
A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through, his bars of rage. His wings are clipped, and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing.
The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his time is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own.
But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
The contrast between the caged bird and the free bird shows how society can limit people's identities, opportunities, and freedom. The poem shows the free bird being able to fly wherever it wants, claim the sky, and live without fear, while the caged bird has clipped wings and tied feet, is trapped physically and emotionally, and can only express itself through song. The poem also uses symbols to express this idea. The use of the free bird symbolizes freedom, individuality, where the caged bird symbolizes oppression and restricted identity. Elements such as the cage symbolize society's expectations or systems of control, whereas the song symbolizes hope, voice, and authentic self.
All in all, conforming hurts everybody, so maybe the point was never to fit. Maybe all the pressure of trends, aligned thinking, and hiding parts of ourselves that seem too different was never meant to make us happy. Just acceptable, predictable, and easy to understand.
But the people we remember, the one who change things, are almost never the ones who blend in the background. They're the ones who risk being judged, the ones who choose authenticity over approval.
Conformity promises safety, but it comes at a cost, the cost of identity. So be you.
Be you.
Be you.